"I am come hither to die." Anne Boleyn began on the morning of May 19, 1536. Those were her first words atop the scaffold erected within the Tower of London. But what few realize is that this carefully measured speech, delivered with grace and startling composure, was not the one she had planned to give. Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII and the first English queen to be executed, was accused of adultery, incest, and high treason. The charges were, according to nearly all modern historians and several of her contemporaries, politically motivated and grossly fabricated. Yet, as she stood before the small crowd gathered inside the tower's walls, she did not protest her innocence. Her final address was restrained, praising the king, a gentle and sovereign lord, and asking those present to pray for her soul. But this was not due to cowardice or guilt. And Boleyn had in fact prepared a very different scaffold speech, one that addressed her wrongful imprisonment and emphasized her unwavering faith and innocence. She was not allowed to give it. Tudor protocol demanded that condemned prisoners make no public statements that might inflame popular sentiment or cast doubt on the monarch's judgment. William Kingston, Constable of the Tower, recorded Anne's mental clarity in her final days, writing to Secretary Thomas Cromwell this morning. "She sent for me, she said she would like to have some word to speak, but would not offend his grace. It is clear and understood she was being watched and controlled even in her last moments. The scaffold was not a stage for justice. It was an instrument of control. Her silence, or rather her silencing, reveals the extent to which her execution was not only a punishment, but a calculated performance for legitimacy. Henry VIII required not only Anne's death, but her compliance in it, and Boleyn's final moments were choreographed to serve the crown's image. The truth of her thoughts, likely censored by court officials, remains buried beneath a composed performance. What she was not allowed to say may echo louder through history than what she did. The French executioner, a foreign blade for an English queen. Why would an English king summon a foreign executioner to behead his queen? Anne Boleyn's execution on May 19, 1536 marked a rare moment in English history, not only for the unprecedented fall of a sitting queen, but for the presence of a foreign swordsman at her death. Instead of the traditional English axe, Henry VIII arranged for a French-style execution by sword. This decision was not made out of mercy alone. It was symbolic, calculated, and deeply political. The executioner, whose name is not recorded in official documents, but is often identified in sources as Jean Rambot, was summoned from Calais, then under English control. He was known as a master swordsman trained in the swift, precise method of decapitation by sword, a method used in France for noble executions. Henry VIII's choice to bring him to London was extraordinary. In Tudor England, beheadings were typically carried out by axe, and many were gruesome. The axe was neither swift nor clean. Botched executions were not uncommon. The choice of the sword carried a deliberate message. Henry wished to portray Anne's death as dignified, almost elegant, at least on the surface. But beneath that veneer was cold strategy, and had been accused of adultery with 5 men, including her own brother. She had been condemned as a traitor. Yet by choosing the sword, Henry could distance himself from the brutality and suggest magnanimity. He could appear merciful, even as he ordered the death of the woman for whom he had once torn apart an entire church. Contemporary accounts suggest Anne was aware of the unusual arrangement. According to Sir William Kingston, the Constable of the Tower, Anne Boleyn remarked before her execution, "I heard say the executioner was very good, and I have a little neck." Her words, tinged with gallows humor, show her acute awareness of the drama being staged around her. It is also recorded that when she knelt at the scaffold, she looked about nervously and asked, "Shall I say my prayers now?" Perhaps unsure when the final blow would fall. The executioner himself was paid handsomely. According to royal records, he received 236 shillings 8, a considerable sum, more than many nobles earned in a year. He had been practicing in the Tower's courtyard days before the execution, honing his strike for precision. The presence of a French executioner was not merely an act of mercy. It was a symbolic gesture meant to sanitize the image of Anne Boleyn's death. It cloaked a political assassination in the guise of refinement. And though the blade was foreign, the motives were unmistakably English. The execution day, the swift yet calculated end of a queen. The sun rose early on May 19, 1536 over the Tower of London, casting a pale light across the green lawn just north of the White Tower. And Boleyn, Queen of England, had spent her final hours in the Queen's lodgings, once richly decorated, now cold and silent. She had risen before dawn, admitted her sins, taken the religious ceremony, and waited. The execution had been delayed once already on May 18th, and she had gotten ready for death, only to be told it was moved. Sources like Sir William Kingston, Constable of the Tower, recorded her restlessness and nervousness, noting that she looked to be dead by noon. When no messenger came, she broke into nervous laughter. The delay was mental torture, not practical need. Every hour increased the pressure, making the moment bigger. Shortly before 9 in the morning on May 19th, and was taken to the scaffold inside the tower's inner yard. She wore a gray silk dress over a crimson skirt, the red standing for bravery in religion in the Catholic belief. Her head covering was simple, her hair tied back to show her neck. Around her stood a small chosen group, powerful people, workers, and a few regular people. The public had been kept away. This was not meant to be a messy scene, but a planned execution of a queen. She walked up the scaffold calmly. People who saw it said she moved with calmness and a kind of quiet honor. She spoke to the crowd in a peaceful tone. "Good Christian people, I am come hither to die, for according to the law, and by the law I am judged to die. I pray God save the king and send him long to rule over you. For a gentler, nor a more kind ruler was there never." Notably, she said nothing to prove herself innocent. But this was expected. People who were said to be traitors had to act quietly. Saying she was innocent could have looked like she was fighting back one last time. She then knelt, covered her eyes herself, and prayed to Jesus Christ, "I commend my soul. Lord Jesus, receive my soul." Her ladies cried softly close by. The man who would kill her with the sword, holding it hidden behind him, came closer. A writer named Lancelot Darrell wrote that the French man with the sword asked to help her to bring it. As and turned her head without thinking, the man stepped up and did the job. No sound was heard except clothes moving and low crying. And Boleyn died in under 45 seconds. Her body was put in an empty wooden box and buried in the nearby church named Chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula. No proper event, no royal walk, just silence and hurry. Her killing was done with cold care, not as a fair act, but as a planned show. Every part of that day was controlled, timed, and planned for a reason. The Queen's end was fast, but never kind. It was a smart move, and Boleyn's death was more than just a fall of a queen. It showed how fear makes power more sharp. In cutting one person, Henry VIII changed the throne and showed that even kings can be hurt when goals become more important than what is right. History tells us that no high rank saves you when the country's plan needs someone to fall. Even today, her end reminds us that the gap between fame and fall can be broken in one quick hit. Does her quiet and show true peace or a smart choice? Comment below with your thoughts. As people there said, she softly said to Jesus Christ, "I commend my soul. Lord, you receive my soul."